Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello all, good morning. Especially to Mr. Heriana as our lecturer at subject English for academic purpose. So, today, this group, I will do it some academic seminar with them of issue in the government in Indonesia. So, what will focus topic is remains foundational in the political science, public administration, and a global governance and democracy and democratic. So, uh, before I start the uh, academic seminar, let me introduce myself first. My name is Siti Paradiba Zahwa with student's ID number 66700008. So, today I was a moderator in this group, and before we start the academic seminar, uh, let me introduce this group member. So, the first is presenter one. Uh, she is Asila Salsabila Wafa with students ID number 6670250006. And the presenter number two is Firda Natasha with students ID number 6670250021. So, the presenter one, or Ashila, will deliver the first presentation that focus on conceptual foundation on the democracy, global democratic trends, and the Indonesian's context. And Asa, we will continue the discussion by analyzing democratic governance in relations to digital transformation, citizenship, and policy recommendation. And there is another two friend in this group. There is Ayudina with students ID number 6670250002 and Regina Putria Rahman with student ID number 6670250003. Ayudina and Regina, we they will have some questioning in this season. So why we selected this them? We select this them because not only because it's the most widely adopted governance model in 21st century, but also because democracy today is under increasing security in many parts of the world, including Indonesia. Democracy faces complex pressure such as political polarization, disinformation, declining trust in democratic institutions, the rise of oligarchy power, and challenges posed by digital transformation. So, therefore, so why we choose this? Because yeah, it's important for us to critically examine not only the normative ideals of democracy, but also the realities of how it functions, adapts, and even struggles in contemporary political environments. So, So, our seminar today, we will have five seasons. The uh, first season is a presentation from Asa and Asila, and next season is a question and answer time, and the third is closing summary for me as a moderator. And last, I will have some closing statement too before we end the seminar today. So we hope that this season will not only depend on our academic understanding, but also engage us as active democratic citizens. without any further ado, so we will start the discussion. So I will invite presenter Asila Sasabila Wafa to begin the first presentation. For Asila Sasabila Wafa,
Okay.
time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Zahwa. So to begin today's discussion, I will explore three major components. First, the conceptual foundation and characteristic of democracy. Two, the global trends and observable pattern of democratic backsliding. And the last one is, and finally, how these frameworks relate to the Indonesian democratic experience and its ongoing challenge. So the first is conceptual foundations of democracy. At the heart of democracy lies a fundamental principle. Political power originates from the people, while democracy takes many institutional forms ranging from a classical direct democracy in ancient Athens to contemporary representative and deliberative models. Its underlying values remain consistent. Okay. Key democratic principle include popular sovereignty, uh, which is meaning political legitimacy comes from the consent of the governed. Uh, Next is political participation, which is allow citizens to influence decision-making process. Next is rule of law, ensuring that no individual, including state leaders, is above the law. Next is checks and balance to prevent power concentration. And the last is civil liberties, such as freedom of speech, association, religion, and press. Okay. Next. Several theoretical frameworks help us evaluate real-world democracies. Okay, Robert Dahl theory of polyarchy, which argues that democratic quality depends on two dimensions, contestation and participation. Next is Samuel Huntington's theory of democratic consolidation, which suggests democracy becomes stable only when the majority of actors view election, not violence, as the only legitimate path to power. Okay, next is Jürgen Habermas' deliberative democracy, uh, is which highlights the importance of rational public discourse and communicative ethic in political decision making. These theories will help us interpret democracy not as a static institution, but as a dynamic, evolving system requiring protection, participation, and continuous refinement. Okay, next is global context, the rise and challenge of democracy. Over past 3 decades, democracy expanded rapidly. Following the end of the Cold War, a trend scholars refer to as the third wave of democracy. However, in recent years, an inverse trend has emerged, a global democratic recession. Indicators from organizations such as Freedom House, the Varieties of Democracy or FREEDOM Institute, and the Economist Intelligence Unit. Okay, declining global democratic score, increased authoritarian tendencies in both established and emerging democracy, weakening judicial independence, suppression of civil liberties, and polarization driven by identity politics. The growth of populist leadership, often characterized by nationalist rhetoric and anti-establishment narratives, has further challenged institutional norms. Digital technology, once expected to strengthen freedom and inclusion, has instead produced new vulnerabilities: disinformation, cyber propaganda, surveillance, and algorithm political bias. Okay, next is Indonesia as the world's third largest democracy, achievement and challenge. Indonesia is frequently celebrated as the third largest democracy in the world, after India and the United States. Due to its population size, electoral participation, and transformation following 98 reform era, Indonesia's democratic achievements include: first, the implementation of direct presidential election since 24, two, a decentralized governance system enabling regional autonomy. Next is the existence of a vibrant civil society, and the last is a relatively free press. However, Indonesia's democratic journey is still evolving. Current challenges include money politics and political patronage networks, where economic power influence representation more than civic merit. Next is oligarchy consolidation, where political and business elites dominate policymaking. Next is identity-based polarization. Next is awakening anti-corruption efforts. And the last is in the spread of digital disinformation, reshaping public opinion and fragmenting discourse. So, Indonesia is therefore a paradox, democratically structured yet simultaneously vulnerable to illiberal tendencies. So, the last is closing. Despite existing tensions, Indonesia also demonstrates resilience through activism, youth participation, digital transparency tools, and civic engagement. With that, I conclude the first presentation and now invite presenter 2 to continue the discussion. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you, Presenter One. In the second part of our seminar, I will continue the discussion by emphasizing the meaning and operational role of democratic governance, and two, the influence of digitalization on democracy, and three, the role of citizenship, particularly young people, and sustaining democratic values. And the last is strategic policy recommendation for strengthening Indonesia democratic resilience. So, democratic governance refers not only to who governs, but also to how governing takes place. Democratic governance refers not only to who governs, but also to how governing takes place. According to the United Nations Development Programme, or UNDP, democratic governance requires one is transparency in public decision making, and two, accountability in public office, three, inclusivity and equality in policy making, for participation beyond elections. And the last is responsiveness to public needs. In the other words, democracy does not end when election conclude. Rather, it continues through public oversight, institutional integrity, and civic participation. So, digital transformation, strengthening and threatening democracy. The digital era has fundamentally reshaped democracy. Technology has expanded access to public information, to policy engagement through online consultants, free government efficiency through a governance service. And the last is citizen mobilization through social platforms. Examples include is open budgeting platforms, digital public complement system, and the last is procurement programs to reduce corruption. However, technology also introduce new challenge. One is misinformation and deepfake manipulation, undermining truth-based discourse, algorithmic echo chambers is reinforcing polarization. Three, cyber propaganda networks, including organized online harassment and opinion manipulation known as a buzzer. And the last is digital literacy inequality, which disproportionately affects rural or marginalized population. During Indonesia 2019 and 2024 election, social media become a major political battleground. Viral narrative influence emotional response more than rational evaluation, making digital literacy a national democratic concern. So, citizenship, youth, and democratic relationship. Modern citizenship involves not only legal recognition, but also informal and ethical engagement in public life. The contribution of youth is especially significant as Indonesia democracy structure is dominated by younger generation. Positive youth participation is reflected in one digital activist campaign to human rights movement, and the last is political education on platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and podcasts. And challenge proceed including political apathy, depolitization framed as entertainment or politainment, and the last is narrative manipulation by powerful actors. Building meaningful citizenship requires education that strengthens independent thinking, ethical responsibility, and critical digital engagement. So, policy recommendation for Indonesia is to strengthen Indonesia democracy. The following strategies are proposed. One, increase public political and digital literacy, beginning with national civic education reform. Two, increase transparency in campaign financing to reduce oligarchy influence. Strengthen independent oversight institutions, including the judiciary and anti-corruption bodies. Expand inclusive digital participation platforms modeled after Taiwan's versus Taiwan and participatory budgeting system. Priorities youth inclusion in political parties, policy consultation, and civil society platforms. Democracy cannot rely only on institutional frameworks. It requires empowered, informed citizens. Democracy remains the most legitimate framework from protecting citizen rights. However, democracy is neither automatic nor permanent. It requires participation, protection, and innovation. Thank you, and I will return to moderator.
Before I start my part, I want to say sorry to Kang Heri because my part in the last part was glitching at the end, so I must take it again. So let's start again, yeah. So what a great question, yeah, from Regina and Ayudina, and what a great question too. What a great answer from Asa and Asila. So, like I said in the first part, I want to summarize like today, like all of the today discussion. Like I have some point insight from this discussion gitu tuh. So the first, democracy is grounded in a popular sovereignty like civil liberties, rule of law, participation, and institutional accountability. And then, secondly, global democracy is confronted with rising authoritarian tendencies, misinformation, populism, and weakening institutional structures. And third, Indonesia democracy has achieved some significant institutional development, but still I think it still continues to face internal challenges like oligarchy power, identity politics, corruption, and digital manipulation. And then fourth, digital transformation present both opportunities, so like including transparency and participation from civil, and then threat such as misinformation and polarization too. But from government to strengthening democracy, uh, government must reboost institution, political literacy, ethical use of digital tools, and then yet conclusion and last reforms targeting transparency and governance. So, in conclusion, democracy in Indonesia is not merely only a system, but one system, like democracy is an ongoing process requiring vigilance, participation, and resilience. Okay, so thank you for Firlian, Natasha, and Asila for presenting this discussion season. So, like I said in the first part, so after Ashila and Asa presenting the discussion, so we will have some Q&A time. So in this Q&A time or question and answer time, we will have 4 questions. So every part have 2 questions, yeah. So uh, who will questioning this season? So as Sore Gina and Ayudina will uh, tell some question to Asa and Asila about the about what Ashila and Asa present. Yeah. Okay. So uh, I don't want to have a lot of time. So for questioning and answer time. So for Regina and Ayudina, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Zahwa. I am Regina Badria Rahman. May I ask a question? In your view, what concrete step can Indonesia take to reduce the influence of oligarchy power within democratic institution? Thank you.
Okay. Next, Ayudina.
Okay, thank you, Jahwa. My first question is, what strategies can be implemented to reduce political polarization, polarization among Indonesian youth, especially in online space?
Okay, next, Regina.
Okay, question 2. Is digital democracy meaningful and effective in Indonesia, considering the reality low rate of digital literacy? If so, how? Thank you.
Okay, next, Ayudina.
Okay, my second question is, how can civil society organization ensure accountability and transparency in government when political access is limited or restricted? Thank you.
Okay, so maybe Asila and Asa need some minutes, yeah, I guess, for find the answer from Regina and Ayudina question. Maybe like 2 minutes, yeah, I guess,
Yes.
for Sheila and Asa to find the answer. So, okay, we'll have some breaks, yeah, in 2 minutes. So, yeah. Okay, so it's already 2 minutes after the questioning. So Sheila and Asa, finish? Are you guys
Finish.
finished?
Finish.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay, so okay. Uh, who's gonna first answer? Maybe I think Asila, yeah. Asila
Yes.
will answer the question from Regina. So okay, for Ashila, time is yours.
Okay, Regina, let me answer your question. So the first question, the answer is to reduce oligarchy dominance within Indonesia democratic institutions. Several strategic steps are necessary. First, there must be stronger regulation and transparency in campaign financing to ensure that political competition isn't disproportionately influenced by wealth. Second, strengthening independent oversight institutions such as the judiciary, the election supervisory body, and the corruption eradication commission is essential to prevent elite interference. Third, increasing political literacy among citizens and encouraging grassroots participation will help shift power away from elite networks and toward broader civic representation. Finally, fostering intra-party democracy can create leadership regeneration opportunities, reducing dependence on oligarchic sponsorship. This combined measure can gradually limit elite capture and create a more equal democratic playing field. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you for the answer, Asila.
Okay. So Asa, you can answer the another question, Asa. Okay, Asa,
So I will
time is yours.
okay, thank you, Zahwa. I will answer from Irina. So the answer is to polarization among youth. Three approaches are essential. First, fostering digital citizenship, education that encourages critical thinking, fact-checking, and respectful dialogue can help youth distinguish between opinion, propaganda, and verified information. Second, promoting cross-group interaction, both online and offline, through community engagement, student forums, or collaborative civic project can build shared understanding beyond ideological difference. And third, social media platforms and public institutions must encourage algorithm transparency and promote content that supports constructive discourse, not only emotionally charged narratives. Through this approach, polarization can shift from hostility to healthy democratic debate. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, Ayudina, yeah, your answer is already apa? Answer. So next, maybe Asila.
Okay, I will answer the question from Regina. So the answer is yes, digital democracy can still be meaningful and effective, but only if paired with improvements in digital literacy and equitable access. Technology has enabled wider participation through online consultation, complaint system, and open data platforms. However, without proper literacy, citizens may become vulnerable to misinformation or political manipulation. Therefore, the effectiveness of digital democracy relies on parallel investment in education, inclusion, and accessibility, especially in rural areas. When these conditions are strengthened, the digital democracy doesn't merely provide access but empowers citizens to participate critically, ethically, and responsibly in governance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Sila.
Okay. So we move to the last answering question. So for Fira Natasha, Thames is yours, yeah.
So for the now, I will answer this question from Aidina. So the answer is civil society can still play a crucial role even when formal political access is constrained. They may utilize strategies such as evidence-based advocacy, public reporting, and coalition building to pressure institutions indirectly. Digital platforms offer tools for monitoring budgets, public compliance, and policy evaluation, ensuring that governance activities remain visible. Additionally, partnership with media, academic institutions, and international organizations can amplify accountability demands. Even when space for participation narrows, civil society can maintain influence by mobilizing public awareness, producing independent data, and engaging in policy dialogue. In this way, accountability remains possible despite institutional restrictions. Thank you.
thank you.
So we have already reached the end of the today's seminar. So on behalf of our group, I would like to extend to my appreciation to everyone, all of the people who has participated with this attentive and engagement. So we hope this discussion has offered not only theoretical understanding but also practical reflection on how democracy shapes our society and responsibility as citizens in Indonesia. So we know that democracy is not always 100% perfect, but democracy has an imperfect part, but its value lies depend on ability to evolve gitu tuh. The future of democratic governance both of globally and in Indonesia depends on how we learn gitu, question, participate, and how we improve it so in the end I want to say sorry to Kang Heri because we are human and we did some mistake and this discussion is not perfect 100%. I think 18% perfect, so I want to say sorry because yeah, we did some mistake, and then maybe our pronunciation at English is not 100% good, and not like good like uh like smooth, smooth, because yeah, we are Indonesian people, and then we don't have a smooth pronunciation in English, so I want to say sorry. And then yep, I want to say thank you, yeah, to Kang Heri, and maybe the part of class in 1B watched this video, yeah. So yep, I think it's the end of our seminar. So yep, this seminar is officially closed. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.